I can see why you're very successful. You're very winsome. But what about the other stories where, we've heard stories about people coming to know Christ. What about those who haven't? How was that managed?
Okay, that's a very good question again. So what happens about the one that doesn't become a Christian? I have had people who have finished this, and I have not been the person that has led them to Christ. Actually, the reality in 9 years is I've only seen one man absolutely impervious to the gospel. And I found out why. He only started the whole process because he wanted to marry a Christian woman. And halfway through the process, she agreed to marry him. Well, it was like water off a duck's back. He got what he wanted. He wasn't listening to either the word because he had willed himself not to. In every other case, without exception, I have seen, my friends, where that mustard seed has grown. Now, they may not be sitting in the shade of the tree yet, but my friend Stuart is a very good example. Stuart started off as an atheist. He knew me enough to actually start this, and he actually admitted the reason he started was that his daughter was about to go to a Church of England primary school, and big old tough Stuart was worried that she was going to come home and ask him a question he couldn't answer. So that's why he started to look. What he has discovered is that he actually went from atheism to believing in God, and it was a big day when he arrived. I didn't know what he was going to say. He said, "I really need to see you." And he said, I've reached a major, major turning point in my life. He said, "I now believe in God." Now, I wanted to headbutt the desk because I've been teaching him the gospel for ages. Where was Jesus in this process? No, he'd got to God. And I've then watched over time as we have slowly but surely come to, there's no undoing this knowledge, Richard. And he's coming slowly but surely to the foot of the cross. So the answer is, it's not about you or how you whimsical or however you think you may or may not be able to use the notes. It is about the Lord being at work on those notes. I'll give you one quick example of why that's true. I was at one meeting and this guy stood up and I thought, what is this man going to say? He looked like a complete nerd. He's the kind of nerd that would be in a Hollywood movie about nerds. And he stood up and he said, "Mr. Borgonon, I'd just like to thank you for the notes."
There are a lot of them in England, are they?
Yes, yeah. And he said, "I'd just like to thank you for the notes." He said, "My company has an telecommunication system, and I am currently using the notes with people in New York, Chicago, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. Thank you very much," and sat down. Now, there's a guy who is not using the notes the same as me. He is of a completely different background. He's using the notes. In fact, he had 8 people on the other end of the company's system for him to do the notes, and he wasn't even in the same country.